Welcome to this introduction of Major Essay 2. This presentation does not replace the assignment sheet, so you need to view both. Essay number 2 has a few more requirements than the first essay that we've worked on. It's a little bit longer. It'll be 4 full pages to 5 as typical. You'll be using sources for this paper. We have a list of approved sources, and you need to use those. If you want to use other sources, you can get them approved in advance, and that includes dictionary or wiki information, things which you might not think of as sourcey enough, but please run them by us. From those sources, you'll be using a minimum of 4 quotes. You're welcome to use more. And here's just a quick reminder to please load your paper as .doc, RTF, but please not as a PDF because that makes them a little harder to leave comments on. Our focus for this paper in terms of skills is working on academic argument and also source use. We'll be working on structure, tone, we'll be reading and summarizing college level sources, using that source material to support your idea, and then integrating the source material into your paragraphs with the Pease formatting technique that we began with our first essay. We'll also be working on your MLA quote formatting and works cited formatting. So we know that that last slide may have contained some new ideas for some of you. So I just want to point out that we have so many small assignments that we will be working on as we draft this paper to make sure that you understand the concepts as we go along. So this one's just a sample one. You want to see the assignment sheet for the actual assignment calendar, but we're going to have many of the same activities we did for Major Essay 1. We'll be brainstorming together. We'll be creating an outline, a graphic organizer, thesis statements, drafting, peer review. So a lot of the same things that we did in Major Essay 1 carry through for the rest of the semester as we work on these next 2 units. One of the main things that we're establishing with this essay is this idea of an academic argument. And there is a separate lecture on academic argument principles, so I won't spend very much time on it, but I just do want to emphasize that what we're looking for with this essay is whether or not you can provide an argument that contains points that we find interesting, right? Or, yeah, that's a good idea. I can see that point of view. So it doesn't necessarily have to prove that you are right or that there's only one right answer to any given predicament. But we're just trying to practice putting our ideas across in a logical, organized way. Your audience for this paper is academic as well, which means you're working to persuade teachers and students. So this is a very full screen. You can read it more carefully on the assignment sheet, but I want to talk briefly about the background for this paper. With Major Essay 1, we looked at the ways in which your past has developed particular qualities to your voice. And for Major Essay 2, we're going to take the next step and make a paper where you plan out an argument to be convincing somebody in order to be heard. You get to pick the scenario that you choose. We're calling those scenarios rhetorical contexts. That's the fancy academic word for it. And so at the beginning of your paper, you'll be laying out who you're trying to convince, what stake do they have in the issue, what do you want to get out of the argument, what are you trying to convince them of? And to do that, then in the paper, we're going to be using a combination of some very old techniques of ethos, pathos, and logos, which come all the way from Greek philosophers, to as well using strategies from contemporary argumentation. So one thing I want to emphasize is that for this paper, you're sharing your plan for the actual battle, not describing the argument you'll have with that person in great detail. It's more you're sharing like how your plan is going to be convincing. The assignment itself is right here. Using the given readings, in addition to your own experiences and observations, write an essay that explains your plan to effectively use rhetorical strategies to have a constructive argument in a specific scenario. Essentially, what that means is that we're going to read a bunch of stuff. You're going to apply your own experiences and ideas to it as you explain your plan to use these argumentation skills to have a constructive argument in any scenario you pick. Your introduction needs to explain the rhetorical situation of your constructive argument. So you want to describe your goal, who you're speaking with, their current position on the topic. One idea for starting this essay is to create an anecdote, which is just a short story, showing the situation you're trying to resolve with this discussion. That's a great way to grab your reader's attention. And then your introduction paragraph needs to end with a single sentence thesis statement. There are lots of different places that the thesis placement is taught, but we're going with the most traditional one, which is the very last sentence of the intro paragraph. For thesis statements, you want to be making your claim about how best to have this constructive argument, and you want to also be mentioning the specific context. The thesis statement is really like a one-sentence distillation of your whole paper. That thesis can either be general or specific. In the assignment sheet, there are a couple templates, fill in the blank sentences that you can use to try to generate your thesis. One of them, for example, is when I'm trying to convince blank, the strategy of blank is the most important to focus on because blank. And you don't have to use these, of course. This is just to get you going. If I was to fill this in, I might say, when trying to convince my kids to eat their vegetables, the strategy of ethos is the most important to focus on because they think of me as a great expert in the area of health, which, okay, is not really true. This is not what happens when I talk to my kids about eating their broccoli. But, it doesn't matter if it's real. I can still go ahead and give it a go. So you can choose something that's an actual argument you've had in the past. You can choose something that you're working at right now, like maybe you want your band to get gig time at a local bar. It could be something completely fantastical, like convincing your housemate how best to survive the zombie apocalypse. You absolutely get to choose. For body paragraphs, each one needs to contain one strategy of your plan that supports your thesis, and that's reflected in the topic sentence. For this essay, we decided to require very specific body paragraphs. They can be in any order, but we wanted to create a lot of structure for you for this second essay because there are so many techniques and skills and concepts that we're throwing at you, which maybe you're familiar with all of them, but maybe you're not. So it helps hopefully take the pressure off you to have a lot of structure in place. So you'll have body paragraphs about your ethos plan, one about pathos, one about logos. You'll choose a helpful strategy such as listening carefully, being concise, researching multiple perspectives, keeping your own biases in check. You'll also have one paragraph where you talk about something you want to avoid, a pitfall, something that would derail your conversation, right? So that pitfall might be avoiding confirmation bias, using misinformation, or not evaluating your sources appropriately. So again, this may sound like Greek to you because it kind of is. Sorry, I can't resist a pun. But ethos, pathos, and logos are just Greek words from Aristotelian rhetoric that we are going to be explaining early on in this assignment sheet. So your body paragraphs need to start and end with topic and summary sentences. They will be using the piece format of body paragraphs just as rolling out another skill. So we've already practiced in Major Essay 1 this basic idea of Ps. With Major Essay 2 and 3, for the evidence, you're more likely to be using source material because we're starting to use the ideas of experts to support our ideas. So we're in Major Essay 1, your evidence was a story or a description. You can keep doing that in Major Essay 2 for sure, but we're also practicing using source material as the evidence. We'll be having practice with conclusions, paragraphs, and some of the academic traditions for doing those. And again, we'll have a whole little exercise for you to practice that when we get there. One of the things which we've developed over the years, which you may not have done before, is a reading summary. We came up with those as a way of emphasizing to students the skills of very quickly summarizing the overview of a source, as well as then picking quotes or details from the source to explain one of the key ideas. So for each summary, you'll be giving a list of sources to choose from. And you'll also be sharing ideas in discussion board as well as we do these. The approved sources are listed on the assignment sheet. Because 101 is not a research writing class, we're providing the sources because we don't really have time to cover research methods in this class. We're mainly concerned in 101 with how to use the material in the right formatting and how to develop paragraphs using that kind of outside research. So it's really in English 102 that you'll actually start doing your own research. If you want to do research, that is completely great. You just have to send your source to your instructor at least 5 days before the essay is due. And that way we can check and make sure that it's an appropriate source and isn't going to derail your conversation. We also have a bonus opportunity. If you provide a source that's good enough to share with the class, you'll receive 2 bonus points for a max of 6. We know our list is not exhaustive, it's just a basic start. So we're excited to see what you come up with. The source list is found at the bottom of the assignment sheet, and it's also broken out in the weekly folders as we work on them. So in week 6, you'll get a block of sources to look at, then another block in 7, and another block in 8. But if you want to look at all of them in one place, then they are found at the bottom of the assignment sheet. All right, we're about to get going. A couple reminders to help you get started. One of them is to start fresh. Spend as much time as you can in the beginning doing some brainstorming, considering multiple ways to plan your discussion. Be patient. Some of the skills and concepts may be new to you, but we will work on them together in small assignments. Be open. Approach the readings with curiosity and try to understand the points of all sides, especially if you initially disagree, because that's where you're sometimes going to get some great new perspectives on things. Let the experts do the hard work. Keep track of interesting ideas or definitions you find in the readings, and let the experts give you ideas for your paper. You're not on your own on this at all. You have lots of support in the sources that we provided. If you're stuck, reread the sources to gather more ideas, and underneath of my little Screencastify alert is a reminder to please visit office hours and share your work with the tutors to get more feedback. We're really looking forward to seeing what you come up with, and good luck.